live, so we're
Oh my goodness.
take 2.
That's, oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious.
That's so funny. Oh, that's so funny. At least you caught it and not an hour later.
Yeah, when we're an hour done and we're
Oh
like,
my God.
That great show.
Woo! We really should have a board operator that just takes care of that shit.
I just skipped to another part of the song.
Oh my gosh.
You know, we started this show off pretty good.
Can we do it again? No.
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 You know, we can, but we're, you know, I don't have lines.
Right.
Like I haven't put out lines where I'm
Right.
reading them. So
Right.
then I could take 2 and just do it again.
Right.
And know what my lines were. Fuck up,
Right.
I know what the lines are.
1, 2, 3, action.
There was some guys here working, and I have dogs in the kennel, and you know it's like the canine penitentiary.
Right.
So they're going crazy and barking up there.
Right.
Could have brought them down here, but I thought, well, I don't want them ending up barking on the cameras, on mics. And what if one of the guys opens the door and comes down here, and then the dogs charge them? That could be a scary situation. If you could see the light here in front of us, our setup, I'm looking through a pole right here, and I have to see Christy, but there's a light right there. And then this weekend we're gonna do a reconfiguration. That's about as close as I can get to a recap.
Yeah.
But it did not come out the same as it did when we did it before, but I forgot to I hit the go live, but then you have to hit a second button. And apparently I never hit that button. We will be switching. I think by Monday we'll be on a different platform.
Okay.
I've done enough research to determine that we are going to EV Mux, and bye-bye, StreamYard. That's what you get for doubling your prices.
Yep.
People.
I wonder how many people have switched.
Oh,
already.
I think a ton, because now when you look it up, there's a ton of videos about switching and who the best competitor is. And the thing is I would have necessarily not left StreamYard if they like EV Mux has features that StreamYard doesn't have.
Yeah. And you would have never known that.
Right. And there's some of their features are much better.
Yeah.
It seems like their platform is better. We have glitches quite often.
Yeah.
Where it kicks our mics off or whatever.
Yep.
And you really have to be paying attention. You have to keep this on the screen so that you can see if that red words flash up there that you've lost your mic. So if I go to another screen and I'm sharing that screen and I'm looking at that, I won't necessarily see that we've lost our mics. So I have to, it's why I have 3 screens. Because like when it happened the other day, I did not take the StreamYard one and move it over to its own page so that I could see the screen and see that and still know what was going on.
Yeah.
Anyway, what we're talking about today is mental health, and see that's exactly it. I have to like pull this up and put it in front of me so I can see the blasted thing. So today we are talking about this month, February, we're talking about self-love. And discussions of self-love, of course, is what our thing is for the whole month. What is it? What isn't it? And how do you make room for it in your life?
Yeah.
That's a very important thing, is understanding what self-love is. And Christy put this stuff together. So these are her words. Well, at least sorta.
Yeah.
We research. We do some research. Self-love is taking the time to understand your flaws, quirks, and the random moments that have impacted your life, good and bad, and being grateful for them. Self-love is finding your value and expecting to be treated as a person of value. It's offering yourself grace, forgiveness, and responsibility for meeting your needs. Self-love is not being rude to others deliberately or being a bully, putting others down, or feel good about yourself, or inappropriately boasting about your accomplishments for recognition. And I want to clarify some things on there
Yeah.
that people can understand.
Yeah.
When we say it's offering yourself grace and forgiveness, we've talked a lot about grace and
have.
forgiveness.
Yes.
And grace doesn't mean making an excuse for
No.
doing poor behavior and,
Right.
I give myself grace.
Right.
Use it. I think you should use it sparingly.
I do.
You should use it like tequila shots.
Okay.
You only do so many
Right.
before you're out of control.
Right.
You know, you can't just do it for everything, every
Right.
time, every moment, because then you are just using it as an excuse for poor behavior.
Sure. Okay.
So that's why I say like tequila shots,
Okay.
because if you take too many tequila shots, you're
Tequila is not my friend. I was like, what? Where are we going with this?
well, you can do
Okay. Okay.
fireball shots. You know,
Oh. Okay.
what is your drink of choice?
I
If you had to
honestly,
do shots,
I don't.
probably
I really don't drink enough.
a
to
jelly
have one.
shot or something. Or
Jelly shot.
What are they?
Jello.
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 Not jelly, Jello. Like a Jello, something where you don't really taste it, right?
Yeah, I'm really not much. I go with whatever anyone hands me, and then I'm like, oh, am I gonna regret that later?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So for you, it's even worse.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so I'm saying for the average person.
Yeah, for a normal person.
If we look at it from the average person, because I tell you what, if you're going to compare drinking, my mother-in-law can drink a lot better than I can.
Oh, yeah.
And she can drink a
Yeah.
lot more than I can.
I would bet most.
So-
I'm
so-
definitely not on the list of drinkers.
Yeah. So that being the case, if I looked at grace as a shot,
Yeah.
I need it more like a wine glass.
Yeah.
You know, because
Yeah.
and sips.
Yeah.
Because obviously I'm going to be done with that a lot faster than someone else, you
Yeah.
know. So I would say it's easy for myself to overdo that way quicker
Yeah.
than maybe you would,
Yeah.
or my mother-in-law,
Yeah.
or my husband, or quite a few other people.
Yeah.
But for myself, I could have one or two, and but I
Yeah.
feel that way about grace. To be
Yeah.
honest with you, one or two is enough because, you know, and I'm not meaning like in your lifetime.
Right.
Same thing
No.
with drinking is not in your lifetime.
Yeah.
But you should never. I don't think you should be doing more than is necessary. Like, use it sparingly. Use
Right.
it for when you really do need that grace. Like when I can't walk very well because I've overdone it. And instead of getting mad at myself or upset at myself because of my physical limitations, then I can give myself grace over it.
Right.
But if I am going, can you go get me a soda? Can you go grab me my glasses? Can you go, you know, like, oh, but give me grace. That's when you're overusing it and you're using it now as an excuse for poor behavior or laziness. That's my opinion. Everything on this show, by the way, disclaimer, is our opinion. We are not experts. Even though we play one on TV.
You know, I fall back to many times in my life there's a story that in my life that I think of a lot when I think of grace, and I think of and I reflect on that taught me a huge lesson and humbled me dearly. When I was 18, I was working at a drive-thru at a Burger King, And this woman came in or went through the drive-through in a minivan. And I had handed her food. And then as she pulled away, I realized I hadn't handed her one of her things. And I was like, oh, no, I forgot this, you know? And she came back through, and she's at the speaker, and she says, I forgot, or, you know, she says, you forgot to hand me whatever. And I kind of laughed, and I said, yes, ma'am, I realize that. And right as I said that, the manager came running out, you know, and he says, I'll take it. And he went and he handed her stuff, gave her a coupon, whatever. And she was just angry, so mad, you know. She's screaming at me, whatever. I'm 18. I have no idea what's going on. You know, like, what the hell? Flash forward, you know, 10 years later, I've got kids, you know. And I just, thinking back to that and recognizing, like, this woman's probably going to karate, going to whatever, and she's freaking out because now she's late. Now she's the bad mom. Now she's the person that can't get her shit together. Now she's, you know, all the things that go through a parent's head when they're running late for things and whatever.
Yeah.
And how much I unintentionally had
added that stress to her.
Right.
But at the same time, one of the things that we have in our statement there is don't be a bully.
Right.
Or inappropriately, you know, you have to giving grace.
Right.
And you weren't given any.
Right.
You know, you weren't given any grace like, hey, I'm not allowed to make a mistake. I'm not allowed to be human. Like, I forgot.
Right.
I acknowledged that I forgot. I didn't go like, yeah, bitch, what about it?
Right.
You know?
But I take that lesson, you know, so when I go and I'm late for things now, I have to check myself and go, people are not going to see me as that lazy person. People are not going to think I don't have my shit together. People are not, I am not this horrible person that I'm hearing in my head.
Right.
And the person that accidentally made that mistake it's not their fault.
Right.
You know, so when I come back around, I can say, hey, you guys accidentally, you know, whatever. And I can meet them with grace and meet myself with that same grace.
Because of an experience that you have.
Exactly.
And I think about that, too, from a perspective of when I see somebody going ballistic.
Yes.
Or having a meltdown.
Having the Karen moment.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, I'm not talking about the ones who are Karens who look for things.
Right.
But the ones who just have a sudden meltdown.
Right.
You know, there's probably something seriously going on in that person's life.
Absolutely.
That caused them to have that absolute meltdown.
Yep.
So I'll tell you a little story. I was in Subway.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of people, a big line, and there was a lady in there. If I knew her name, I would honor her for Black Heritage or Black History Month. Nice, really sweet gal. Not so much at the beginning. She had her daughter with her. I was playing peekaboo with her daughter.
Aww.
It was really cute. But some guy cut in front of her and just blew her off. And she's like, excuse me. And he turned around and goes, and what are you going to do about it?
Oh, no.
And she started to get mad, and she did not throw out the racist card, but in my perspective, it was probably because of that.
Right.
He was an arrogant asshole. He was white. He was old. He was, you know, he probably did because but I was standing right next door. You know, we were I was behind her in line, but we were kind of standing next to each other. And I'm like, excuse me, there is a line. You can get behind me.
Right.
And he's like, and why are you taking up for her? And then she started pissed off.
Right.
And then he was like, I don't know who the F you guys think you are, blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know, you could leave. Like, you don't have to stay here. And he went off on her and went off on me. And then I just reached out and I touched his arm and I said, "Sir, whatever you're going through, I'm really sorry.
Right.
I'm really sorry. And I know you're probably very stressed out right now, but it's not her fault.
Right.
And it's not my fault.
Right.
So if you could please do me a favor and just kind of lower your temper."
Yeah.
Like, there's no need for you to get mad. You did cut in line. We're both more than happy to let you just go ahead and do your thing. Obviously, you're in a bigger hurry than we are, but you don't need to take out whatever it is that's
That
going on
needs
in
to
your
stay
life
there.
on us.
Yeah.
And he broke down and started crying.
Yeah.
His wife was dying.
Yeah.
His wife was in the hospital. She was in intensive care, and he had like 20 minutes to go and get himself something to eat and get back to the hospital. Mm-hmm. So because I reached out and was like trying to calm him down, she was taking it as a racial thing.
Right.
So that's how I took it too.
Right.
But come to realize he was just not even paying attention to anyone around us. And we were standing kind of back. So he
Right.
probably was like, they're waiting for their food, not
Right.
ordering. And when I said that to him and he started crying, he's like, "I'm so sorry. And he just blurted out, like he just vomit dumped a bunch of words and how his wife is in the ER or in the intensive care and she's dying. And I just needed to get something to eat. I haven't eaten in 48
Yeah.
hours. And he was like, and we both were, and I mean, like, we didn't know each other
Right.
at all.
Right.
And we both said, "Do you mind if we just say a prayer with you?"
Yeah.
And we both put our hands on him and we prayed with him. And then, you know, it's a sad story and it's a touching story because when he got up and then we even said, "Could you hurry up and get his made really quickly
Right.
so that he can get out of there?" And then when he went to pay, he's like, please put both of theirs on my bill."
Yeah.
And we didn't know that because we were busy over
Right.
here ordering our food and making our orders. And then when we got up to the register, they said the old man paid for your
Right.
meal. And it's where we gave him grace when he might not have deserved it.
Right.
Because realistically, the way he was acting, the way he was treating us, and the words coming out of his mouth, he did not deserve our grace.
Right.
But I stopped for just a second and said, something is going on that
Right.
set him off. Now, granted, I could have touched his arm and said, "I'm sorry for whatever you're going through." And he could have said something horrible
Right.
and just been a bigger jerk.
Right.
But it broke him
Right.
because I showed him grace.
Right. And that is something that, like, it shocked me when I first got here to Huntsville, but it's taught me a lot, is that when someone comes at you nasty, it's typically because of pain. And when you
Yeah.
recognize that and just go, okay, something's hurting them.
Yeah, not
Just
as an
don't respond.
excuse,
Yeah.
but hurt people.
Exactly. You know, and you go, okay, let's just let that go, or, you know, say, "Oh, sorry, man," you know, like, then just keep moving or whatever.
Right.
Like, and just not respond. Like, it's crazy what a difference it makes. And it really is. It's just completely changed
Well, I
everything.
watch a lot of those, you know, like Karen moments that
Yeah.
are on YouTube. They drive me nuts. Like,
Yeah.
after it gets to a point, I'm like, I can't watch it.
Right.
For this. You know, and if you put yourself in a situation that's like a whole beehive of Karens,
Yeah.
maybe don't go there.
Right.
But attitude determines response.
Right.
You know, if you're going to give me an attitude, I probably am going to respond in like. I can very quickly turn into a Karen.
Right.
But I don't start out as a Karen.
Right.
You have to have given me some reason to come back at you in a Karen mode.
Right.
So I don't know if that's a different name for that Karen, but like attitude determines response, you know?
Right.
And yeah, it's better to just turn the other cheek and walk away.
Yeah.
but that's not my personality.
Yeah.
My personality is, oh, really?
Yeah.
You want a piece of this? I'm going to give it to you. So I shouldn't have that personality. Or I should. I don't know. But I'm the first one that's going to take off my glasses and go, all right, you ready to go?
Let's go.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
And it's like, do you need to be that way?
Right.
So sometimes you have to give them grace and just walk away.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to give yourself grace for not walking away,
I really love the store people around here because they're literally like, they'll just go, yeah, I'm not going to
Saints.
talk to you
Yeah.
when you do that. And they just walk away. And like, you don't have a response for that. Like they won't deal with it. And it's the funniest thing. Cause what do? You're like, oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
they just walk away.
Yeah.
And you're standing there yelling at yourself.
Yeah.
But I am the antagonizer of people like that. Like when I had the lady who bitched at me about my Trump mask.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, so sometimes though, when I see a Karen moment, someone who's doing that, I find it entertaining.
Okay.
So I like to play a part in the entertainment. Like, oh, really? You're going to go,
Yeah.
And it would be over with really quick if I just walked away.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, let's play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to play with this person because it's quite entertaining. But you have to pick those battles too. And I don't work there, so I
Right.
don't have to worry about losing my job or anything. I
Right.
can do what I need to do. Now I'm not going to follow her out the store. I'm
Right.
not going to become the Karen where I'm chasing her through the store
Right.
or following her around or follow her out to her car or none of that crap. But so back to our list is you have to taking the time to understand your flaws, quirks, and random moments that have impacted your life, good and bad.
I think that's really important.
It's really important to understand the good things that make you who you are and the bad things that make you who you are.
And it's okay to have both. And it's okay to have things that you consider flaws or other people consider flaws. Like, I think you consider your being late a flaw,
Right.
And
Unless
make
there
a
was a semi truck that crashed 3 seconds before I was there. See, then that's a benefit.
I don't know. I like those are little things, but they're just parts of who you are. I don't really consider they're just pieces of who you are. They're not all of who you are. And once you just kind of go, okay, that's who
you
she
can
is.
determine what flaws or quirks that you might have that you really honestly feel like that's something I want to work on,
Right.
and I want to change that part of me, then you have to consciously make that effort to change those things.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to change that because you just suddenly said, I don't want to be late anymore.
Right.
No, I had to set alarms. I had to consciously say, okay, if we have to be ready to go at 12 o'clock, I have to be starting to get myself ready at 10:30, 11.
Right.
I can't wait until, and that's why we almost always were late for things. Cause I'm like, well, we don't have to leave till 12. So at 11:30, 11:45, I'm like, oh, let's jump up. And I think my mind concept of how long something takes to do is in my mind, it takes 30 seconds. And in reality, it takes 10 minutes.
Right.
So I had to learn that
Like,
this is
Yeah.
this and this is that. And, brushing your teeth and brushing your hair and changing your clothes. If I'm suddenly going to change my clothes, and quite often when we're getting ready to leave to go somewhere,
Right.
I brush my hair and either put it up in a clip, put it up in a ponytail, put my hat on, whatever I'm going to do, or I've already done my hair earlier. And if I am going to actually curl my hair and have it nice, I've done that a half an hour before. But then I'm going to brush my teeth, and I change my clothes right after I brush my teeth because I don't like having stuff on my shirt.
Okay.
And that's 15 minutes right there.
Sure.
And in my brain, that's 45 seconds.
Sure.
And it's not. So
Yeah.
I had to consciously say, this that I think is only going to take me 3 minutes
It's
is going to
not.
take me 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So I need to go and get started half an hour early, so I have 5 or 10 minutes left. If something goes wrong, you put your eye makeup on and you get crap
Yeah.
on your eyelashes all the down here, and you got to clean that off and fix it. Well, that's added time, so you got to be prepared for that.
Right.
So I had to look at that as a flaw that I wanted to fix versus a quirk is something that and that's what I look at as a flaw is something you want to fix or change or
Right.
repair. Whereas a quirk is a behavior that makes you unique or different from someone else, and that they can be embraced by yourself.
See, I don't see either thing as like if they're a part of who you are. Like,
Well, I'm
they're-
not saying it's
they're
bad.
Just fine.
The-
like I'm like, oh, whatever. It's just a thing, you
so
know.
it's
and it's who
fine
you
that
are.
I'm
Yeah.
late. I'm gonna
I mean,
remember that when Christy and I
but,
have
like,
to do something.
If
and
it's
I'm
who
late
you
for
are, and we know it's who you are, then that's who you are. Like, that's who you are. And we can anticipate that you're going to be late.
We're gonna hold this to Christy when I'm
We
late
can
for something.
anticipate that you're going to be late. Then we can anticipate that you're going to be late.
And
you
then
know?
and then Christy's like, that's why I always tell you it's a half an hour earlier or later.
Right. Or, whatever. I anticipate you're going to find a side quest or two when we're doing something.
Never. I don't do that. I don't know what you're talking about.
That never happens.
Not at all. Oh my God, that's so funny. So then being grateful for them.
Yeah.
And being grateful for those things because the things that I
They
look
make the side quests make the journey fun.
exactly. I mean, without the side quest,
We go on an adventure.
when I went to Cape Canaveral,
Right.
to pick up my mother-in-law,
Yeah.
and we were far ahead of time. So I went to where my mother-in-law lives in a different part of Florida, and we had like an hour and a half or something like that to get to Cape Canaveral where we were getting the ship. And as we were driving through, we had like 3.5 hours.
Right.
So we left in plenty of time. Our goal was to leave by 10. We left at 8:30
See?
because I was up and ready to go.
Ta-da!
I had all the suitcases already in the car the night before. I was still
Excellent.
finishing packing and all that crap. And it was
You are really excited.
it was rather oh my God, it was a disaster
Oh, no.
in my room
Oh, no.
at my mother-in-law's house because I pulled out my backpack purse, and my purse, and my little satchel purse. And I dumped them all on the bed because I was like, I only want to take one. And I don't want a bunch of crap.
Okay.
Oh my Lord. Oh my Lord. Let me tell you, I'm not a hoarder either, but it explained why I could not find a chapstick when I was in the bathroom trying to find a chapstick to take with me. Because I'm like, I need a chapstick. So when her and I went to Ross, I bought a package, of chapstick.
Uh-huh.
Well, when I dumped all my bags and dumped everything and pulled everything out to clean them out and pick out what I actually needed to take with, I had 17
Nice.
chapsticks in my purses.
There they were.
There they were. I didn't mean to buy another 4-pack of chapstick.
Nope.
So, I was ahead of the game by cleaning up, and it made me feel really good to get it all cleaned out and get all the trash out of it, and then have one with just the stuff I needed.
Yeah.
And I determined that night I'm not taking my computer because I said, Mom, I'm not going to take my computer. She goes, I'm very proud of you. And I said, because I'm afraid that if I take my computer, I will be on this beautiful, wonderful, fun cruise and I'll be in my room working.
Yep.
because I will always find something I need to get done. And especially in light of a lot of the things we have going on,
Yeah.
I would have been working.
Yep.
Now, hindsight is I got really super sick and I was stuck in my room for 2.5 days, so I couldn't really use that computer.
Yeah. Oh, well.
But I was too sick to do anything, so
Yeah.
it wasn't even going to happen. But I have learned to love myself in the things that I do, and that I have to learn how to put them in their places and put them in their perspectives. And I am a loud person. I am a boisterous person. I am blunt. I say exactly what I think. You do not have to worry about putting on a gown or a dress and looking like shit and walking out the room with me. Because I'll tell you, that looks like shit.
Yeah.
Take that shit off. It does not look good. I am not going to float somebody's boat just to make them feel good. If it doesn't look good, I'm going to tell you.
Right.
But some people take that very crass. Like they're like, your tone or the way I talk is very crass. Like I'm rude, and I'm never trying to be rude. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because there's also a part in here where you said self-love is not being rude to others deliberately.
Right.
So I'm never deliberately rude.
Right.
I can come across as rude. My tone can come across, and I try really hard to change it. But it's just, I'm very much my father's daughter. My dad talked the way I talk. I talk the way I talk. My grandmother talked the way I talk. So, it's not a learned behavior. It is, I think, a DNA behavior. And learned.
Right.
But also part of the learned behavior that I look at with that is I've worked in all male industries my entire life.
Right.
So when you're a female and you work with very dominant males, because the fields I worked in, construction, after the military, law enforcement, and the military, and EMS.
Right.
Which one of those are gentle people?
Right.
None of them. Like when I was a cop, you have to come at people with attitude and confidence and determination that you're not going to walk on me. I never, ever ran into somebody, whether I'm pulling them over for a DUI or anything, where they went like, oh, are you okay? Are you scared of me? No, they were like scared of me. They're like, oh shit, this bitch means seriousness.
Right.
So I keep.
So, but now that you're aware of that and you're not in that situation and we're talking about it, if a situation comes up that you can soften next time,
I try.
You might be more conscious of that. To bring it down a little bit, maybe.
I can now. I've learned where I can bring it down.
Right.
But I will say, my bringing it down is probably to somebody's high.
Right. Right.
And they may not understand that is me bringing it down.
Right.
And but I also have a shorter fuse on the I don't take bullshit.
Right.
I don't have a short fuse. Like I don't blow up.
Right.
But if I have to repeat myself over and over, you're going to know I don't like that.
Right.
If I have to give instructions too many times, you're going to know that. Like I gave you the instructions. You should be adult enough to follow the instructions. And like when I owned my business and when I work with people now with my business I have now, I tell people when they first come to work with me or do any kind of work with me, please and thank you are implied.
Right.
Because quite often, I don't have time to stop and placate to you.
Right.
I do give people kudos and all that stuff when
don't have time to hold your hand.
Yeah, I don't have time to hold your hand, and I don't have time to pat you on the back because you did your job.
Right.
Now, if you did exceptional, I am the first one that will say, "Wow, you did an amazing job." And that was way more than I expected. That's way more than I asked for. I super appreciate that. But if you do just what I told you to do, I am not going to come over and do cartwheels and give you a gold star and pat you on the back.
Right.
I'm not going to do it. I expected that from you.
Right.
You know, so I do try really hard to tone those things down. And to some people, my tone down is their high. So I have to and I do a really good job though of reading people's faces. So I often can see in somebody's face that it's almost like that reactionary,
Right.
like,
Ooh.
what did she say? You know,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
was that intended?
Right.
And then I'll go, oh, sorry, I didn't mean it. Like,
pull it out. Pull
yeah,
back.
pull back a little bit.
Yeah.
So remembering that part of it is that it's the deliberate aspect.
Yeah.
You know, making sure that you have your value, but also at the same time, you want to be expected to be treated like you have value, but you need to treat other people as if they have value as
Right.
well.
Exactly.
And when you do that, you're probably going to be a little bit more mindful
Yes.
and a little bit kinder.
Yes.
And, you know, when you are being rude to others deliberately, and
Such an ugly look.
yours says not being rude to others, comma, deliberately being a bully.
Yes.
So they're kind of together.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, I've never known a rude person that's also not a bully.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
You know, they're kind of a caveat together.
Right.
Karen is rude,
And
but
it's
she's also a
bullying
bully.
on purpose. Exactly.
Yeah, and she's doing it deliberately.
Exactly. And,
Like-
and that was kind of the intention there, was to like point that out because it really is kind of hand in hand. If
Right.
you are being rude, you're doing it intentionally, and you're doing it to bully others.
Right.
Whether you acknowledge that or not, you're
Right.
doing it to make yourself feel better about something.
Right, exactly. Well,
So-
and like if you've seen that video of the lady who is removing the hose from the gutter drain at a house where a pool guy is dumping the pool. He's cleaning somebody. He's a pool man.
Okay.
And he's cleaning a pool, and this lady comes marching over, and she's taking the hose out of the drain where the water is going,
Okay.
and cussing at him and hitting him.
Oh,
and
my.
he's like, get off of me, stop it. And you don't have any right to. And he's like, I can't remember, but he ended up getting fired because he stood up for himself. I guess he got his job back though after a bunch of people
We're like,
went
what?
ballistic about her behavior, and it was because they just didn't want him because he told her to get the fuck out of his face.
Yeah.
And I think it was, bitch, get the fuck out of my
Yeah.
face.
Yeah. Good.
She would not have had time to hear the words, bitch, get out
Yeah.
of my face if it was me.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and it's the same thing with, it's the same thing with like someone who touches a child or does
Right.
something to a child. I have been in the store, I'm sure we all have, where you see that one parent that is aggressively, I'm trying to say it in a nice way, bad to their child. You know, they are aggressive and they're mean and they're you can see if they're willing to do that in public, what kind of human are
What
they
are they doing in private?
But from being in law enforcement, one of the things that I've learned is you do have to be somewhat careful in some of those circumstances, because if you have no right to take the child from them.
That's awful, isn't it? You
And
can't do
just because he yelled at them or grabbed their arm and yanked them over or whatever, their Child Protective Services is not going to meet you at the door of Walmart
Nope,
and take that
they're
kid
not
away.
doing nothing. Yeah.
So if you go after them or you say something,
You're still the bad guy.
most likely that person's going to get even more aggressive,
Yep.
and who he's going to take it out on is that
that
kid
kid.
at
Yep.
home when they get out. See what
Exactly.
kind of scene you made. So
Yep.
I think we have to look at those circumstances sometimes, and we have to step back. And I mean, if you're really that concerned about it, just quietly follow them out and get their license plate and call the authorities or something. But if you respond in like to a person that is that way, there's a good likelihood that you could cause them to aggressively go after their family member because you pointed them out.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful on those things as well. Sometimes bullies have very, very small buttons.
Yeah.
So it's very easy
Sometimes,
to
all the
push.
time.
Yeah, I should say more all the
Real
time.
bullies anyway.
Like those Karens, they're looking for things
Yeah.
to complain about. They're
Yeah.
looking for things to
Hurt people.
yeah, and they're looking for it. They like the drama. They like the issue with that.
Yeah.
There was a Christmas movie this year called A Karen Christmas or something,
Oh no.
and I was like, ooh, I want to watch that because sometimes I do like watching these Karens go kind of cuckoo. It was A Christmas Carol
Okay.
done in Karen style.
Uh-huh.
So she was an absolute bully.
Oh no.
She was mean. She was a horrible person. And of course, it did the past, present, and future. And, she died and she learned from it and she changed her ways and the same Christmas Carol. But it was enlightening when you look at it from that perspective. But you can do that to yourself. You can give yourself that past, present, and future.
Absolutely.
You can look at it and say, like I've said many times to people, if you complain about all the other people around you and how everyone does this to you and everyone hurts you and everyone is mean to you and everyone does this and nobody maybe you need to look at the middle of that.
Right.
Because if you're the center and all these things are happening around you,
What are you doing?
are you the catalyst to why
Right.
their behavior is
Exactly.
the way that it is?
Yep.
You know,
Exactly. What are you doing in there that's causing these reactions?
exactly.
Yep.
Because it's probably not entirely everyone else's
Right.
fault.
Right.
And that's a hard look at yourself.
Yeah.
That's a really hard look at yourself to say, ooh,
Yeah.
I might
And
be
that's-
the
yeah,
cause of my
that's-
own demise.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of self-reaction or self-reflection in self-care and in self-awareness. You
So
have
if you
to do
look
that.
back at your
and you have to do it
past,
honestly, and it's so much work.
yeah, and honesty is
Yeah.
the hardest part because you have to be honest with yourself as to why you've done certain things or do certain things.
Yep.
And you do have to dig back into the past.
Yep.
You have to look at the present.
Yep.
Have you made those changes you want to make? Are you
Yep.
making those adjustments? Are you really reflecting on the cause and effect
Yep.
of behavior?
Yep.
And are you consciously trying to make an effort to fix those problems?
Right.
Like, okay, so Christy and I have gotten into heated debates.
Yes.
And we're both passionate and
Yes.
we could both have absolutely nope, this is the way I see it and you cannot. I'm gonna call Christy out on it because it was super funny. I sent her a text yesterday saying,
Oh my God.
can you remind me who this person is?"
Yes.
And I said their name. I'm not going to say people's
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
I guess the name don't matter
Yeah.
because it's not like
It
a
was
full
so
name.
funny. Yeah.
But I said, "Who's Kevin?"
I said,
And-
Kevin, I don't know. Who's Kevin?
And she's like, "Who's Kevin?" And question mark, question mark. And I came back with,
You told
"Who's
me.
Kevin?" And she's like,
I don't
"I'm
know.
asking you who Kevin is. I don't know who you're talking. Do you mean Emmett?" And I'm like, "No, I don't mean Emmett. I mean Kevin. You said Kevin." So I literally picked up the phone and called her, and I said, "I'm asking you." This is like who's on first, what's on second.
Yeah.
I said, "I'm asking
You.
you who
Who's-
Kevin is."
Yep.
And you're like, "I never said Kevin. I said Emmett." I'm like, "No, you didn't. You
Go
said
up.
Kevin." Go up in your text messages and sure as shit, she put Kevin.
Yep.
And it was a totally different person because
Yeah.
she thought I was but I
Talking
was
about-
like, what do you mean you don't know who
I don't
Kevin
know.
is?
I don't
You're
know.
the one who said you sent Kevin a message.
Yeah.
So it was super funny because when I first called her, she had a bit of an attitude on the phone that I don't know what the F you're
I think
talking
you just
about.
heard
I never
attitude.
said, yeah, okay. Okay. She's like,
idea.
I don't know what you're talking about. I said Emmett.
No
I'm like,
attitude.
no, you didn't. You said Kevin. She said, I did not say Kevin. And I'm like, okay.
I don't
then-
see Kevin.
And then I read the message to her and it was her message. And
Yeah.
she's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So that person is this person. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, that's what I was asking.
There you go. Yeah.
But it is it is one of those things where you look at and you go like, okay, I could have gotten pissed off at you.
Yeah.
We were both laughing,
Yeah.
but I could have gotten fucking mad.
Right.
Like, excuse me, what the fuck is your problem?
Right.
You're the one that said this. I just was asking who, and you are calling me an idiot because I don't know what,
don't know
who,
what's
where,
going on.
what, why.
Yeah.
But it's where people have to learn other people's love language, but also learn other people's communication language.
Yeah.
Because Christy's communication language is once this part's over, I'm now on here.
I am not
So
there at
I'm
all.
not back there anymore. I'm here. So why are you asking about there?
Yeah. I am 10 pages away, babe.
I've already moved on.
I am in Japan right now, okay?
Yeah, exactly. And I am sitting there with everything still going like this.
Yeah. No. Keep
Yeah.
going. We're moving. We're moving.
She's like, no, that was yesterday. that was 4 minutes ago.
yeah.
We're
Yeah.
all-
We're over here. Keep going. Keep going.
So and for the same thing, she has to keep me from being
Yep.
stuck in a
Yep.
wheel
Yeah.
of the same thing over and over.
Yep.
Repeat. I hate when people repeat, but I will repeat.
Yep.
And it's like, I think we all have to acknowledge those things too.
Yeah.
A lot of what we hate is because we do it ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a pet peeve of our own because we hear it in ourselves when we're doing it. So
Mm-hmm.
it really is irritating when someone else does it to us.
Sure.
Now, I don't have to get repeat instructions. I will follow instructions if you give me the
Okay.
instructions. Plus, I can also, I tell my husband all the time, he's a Marine, and I'll tell him to do something, and I'll say, do you need me to write that out in crayon?
Oh, no.
So you get the whole instructions, and he's like, yeah, can you please do that? Because my husband isn't the person who goes and says, okay, you gave me this instruction, now look at it and go boom, 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 boom. He's very direct. You said this. So I only went there. I only looked at that. I did not go, well, it's not there. So maybe look here, 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 here. It's not here. And then walk over and go, it's right here. You couldn't look 2 feet over, So I tease him. Do you need me to write the instructions down with crayon? And he knows his behavior too. And that's my way of being funny and sarcastic. And I have no idea who that is, so I'm not answering. So it goes where he knows this. So we make it a funny thing. Whereas he could give me the instructions and only give me one piece of it, and I can go and look at it and figure it out and put the whole thing together. I cannot do that for him. I've got to give him the step-by-step method of instruction. And it's a lot easier when you know that about your partner, but it's a lot easier if you know that about yourself.
Right.
If you know that about yourself and you can take those things that you have and put value on them, instead of devaluing yourself.
Right.
Say I have these things, but this is why, and this is what makes me
Right.
a better person, or it makes me more efficient, or it makes me dig deeper to find
Right.
what is needed or the better solution. Or it makes me,
Yeah.
Does any of that make sense?
Yeah, and I think it's really amazing when you find people first of all, when you recognize that in yourself, but then when you find people that can support you and recognize that in yourself too and support you in that way. When you find coworkers or family members like that can build around you in that way, you become unstoppable because you're like, all right, this is our goal. We know this is the end game. And everyone knows how they work
Right.
and what they are capable of
Right.
and what works and what doesn't work for them.
Right.
So all of a sudden, everybody knows this is what I need to be supported so that I can get here. And that's, and then you guys just keep going.
And that's the big part of it is knowing your worth,
Exactly.
but also knowing your skills.
Yes.
Knowing your skill set and saying, like, Christy and I are working on a really huge project.
Right.
I know what my skill set is.
Right.
And I can, and I'm the head of it.
Right.
So I can give directions. I am very good at delegating.
Right.
I'm very good at giving direction, but I'm also very good at not micromanaging them once. And that's because I hate micromanagers.
Right.
I really don't like it. Now, if you're not doing what is needed to be done, and I have to go and find out, you're not giving me the report back. You're not saying, hey, I've got this accomplished, and I'm getting that report back to move on to the next step or whatever.
Right.
Then I might have to jump in.
Right.
But I am very good about not micromanaging, but it can be a flaw too.
Because if people aren't doing what they need to do
Right.
and you don't know and you're expecting it to be done.
And then the date comes up that this part needs to be done,
Then you're
and you
screwed.
find out they haven't done any of it.
Right.
Then I become Karen.
And that is the most common issue in leadership, I think. And the most common thing I would find with supervisors when I would be working. And one of the things I feel like I was trained really well at is like figuring out what people were really good at and communicating with them. Okay, so where do you want to be? What do you want to be doing? Where do you think your strengths need to be built? But it's not people. The hardest part I find is people trusting you enough to open up.
right.
To say, this is what I enjoy,
Right.
this is what I want to know, this is what I don't know. Because they're afraid of being hurt or
Right.
like opening up that way.
And for my personality, people that work with me, them learning to trust me that I'm not going to bite their head off.
Right.
If they ask me a question, because
Right.
I am very crass.
Right.
And I am very boisterous and I am
Right.
very loud. So there's quite often people have an automatic intimidation factor and that I'm not approachable.
Right.
And it's, I don't know. You tell me, am
I don't-
I actually approachable?
I don't have an issue with it.
Because
but
you have learned that I am actually approachable. And I'm the first one to say, like anyone out there, we're not always going to take criticism well,
right.
and we're not always going to take that approach well. So you have to be prepared for that person to recoil back from it or respond in a way, but then maybe just give them some grace.
Right.
Give them some
Give them a
space
minute. Yep.
to evaluate it and look at it. And for me, a lot of times I have to evaluate it and evaluate it and evaluate it and evaluate it and evaluate it. And I may go like, once I've done enough evaluating, no, I'm not changing.
Right.
This is the way it's going to be.
This is what I need.
And no matter what, it's going to be this way.
Right.
Whereas some people want an immediate acceptance of their change or acceptance of what they've brought to you. And not everyone can say, okay, great idea.
Right.
Now, if it is, and I see it quickly, I might immediately go, that's a really good idea. Let's do that.
Right.
But if it's very important or
You
very
have to sit on
valued
it for a
thing, I
minute.
have
Yeah.
to sit on it for a
Absolutely.
minute. But you have to understand that about me. Like our studio, for instance.
Yeah.
we were sitting here, and Christy's so good, and it really helps me a lot in how she approaches things. She's like, so I want to ask you something, and it's okay if you say no, but I just want to ask, and I'm open to discussion, and she's, and I'm like,
Just
okay.
spit it out.
I was like, okay, would you just quit beating around the bush and just say it? And she goes, "Is okay again. If you're not comfortable with this," I'm like, would you just fucking say it? And she goes, "Do you think it would be okay if we reconfigured the studio? Because it's very uncomfortable." And this was, of course, when we had more than 2 people. And we eventually planned to have at least 1 or 2 more people coming into the show. If it just ends up being me and Christy and guests,
Yeah.
and that's probably what it'll be.
Yeah.
But she's like, I hate the visual. Like and she didn't say the word hate. She said it's uncomfortable because it's hard to see each other directly. If somebody's on the couch, you're having to turn. And she's like, so can we maybe look at maybe reconfiguring it? And what she didn't know is I was already thinking the same thing myself. Mm-hmm. I had been watching, I had been looking, I had been seeing. And like I said, I'm literally looking through a light and she's looking, half her face is covered by the mic. And of course, the camera I have on her right now is at that angle.
Yeah.
So it definitely has the mic. Now, if I switched it to camera 2, much better view, but there's too much shadow.
Yeah.
So it's like, there needs to be some reconfiguring.
Yeah.
So she was kind of afraid to approach that, but I was already thinking about it myself. Mm-hmm. So quite often you think about, I mean, even when the show started, our show started in the midst of the election. Mm-hmm. Literally, it started on election day. Mm-hmm. And then you go into Thanksgiving holidays. Mm-hmm. And then you go into the shopping. And I call that kind of a holiday.
Yeah.
It's a shopping month of November into December.
Yep.
And decorating and Christmas and the stress of Christmas, family coming, shopping. Yeah. There parades and events and this and that and Christmas parties and blah, blah, blah. There was so much going on that our shows were about shopping and about getting ready for Christmas. And they were really not relevant to what we wanted the show to be about, but it was really hard to have relevancy on mental health and self-love and sobriety and stuff like that when what's happening is shopping and Christmas and all that stuff. So it gets in the muck of what's going on. And of course I left it just on you. But it's like there's perspectives that you can put into things. Like it could have been done better. Right. It could have been done in a way of like, okay, we're going to have this topic today, and then we'll talk about 15 minutes about what your plans or how you're preparing for the holidays. Yeah. But it wasn't structured as well. I mean, Christy and I are structuring it much better now. Yeah. But it's all a learning curve, and it's all like putting things into perspective and then giving yourself that value of how these things have made you improve. Yeah. And are these things, and I look at this show as one of those things. Yeah. Like we're taking the good, the bad, and getting value from it. Absolutely. And how do we change it and how do we fix it? Because obviously our goal is to give value to our viewers. Yeah. What are we giving them, and can we help them to talk about these same things that we're talking about? And can you be open and can you be honest, not only with others, but with yourself? And sometimes it's harder to be honest with yourself than it is to be honest with others. Yeah. And ironically, they do say, if you're really concerned about something, like say dyeing your hair or an outfit or something like that, ask a stranger. because a stranger will be more honest with you than your family or friends, unless you have a family or friend like me, because I'm going to be bluntly honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it to make you feel good. And I've said that many a time in my life. I'm not going to sugarcoat shit to make people feel good about themselves. But at the same time, don't be that person that's asking for affirmations from other people by using a negative to get it.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I really dislike that.
Oh, man.
Oh my God, does this stress make, and as a heavier set person, I've even told this to Christy, I don't ever want to hear the fat word out of your mouth.
Yeah. No.
Like, it pisses me off.
Yeah.
Because you're thin.
Right.
You could wear pretty much anything and it'll look good. I cannot. So when
I love your butt.
thank you. But like when you go to put on a dress or a gown or something like that, I don't want to hear, oh, does this make me look fat? Because I want to punch somebody in the face that is half my size.
Right.
When they say something like that.
Right.
So I think, and we can be cognizant of those things. Like, does this complement my shape?
Right.
Is saying the exact same thing without hurting that other person's feelings.
Right.
And we have to be cognizant of that. And quite often there's a heavier set and a thinner person that are close friends.
Right.
And they don't want to be the butt of your joke.
Right.
I don't want you to be in like, oh, you're not going to fit in there. I don't want to hear that.
No.
I know certain things on my own. Like, I'm working on this. I want to lose the weight. It's not my eating habits, blah, blah, blah. But, I'm not going to choose to put myself in a position where I'm going to be asked or I'm going to be embarrassed.
Right.
I'm not going to go, on a dolphin excursion when I know there's a weight limit.
Right.
And I may not be at that weight limit, but I don't want to be asked.
Right.
I don't want to be asked. I don't want to be put in a position where I have to even acknowledge that. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah. So we're going to continue this. Self-love is not being rude to others, deliberately being a bully. Okay. So we've talked about that, but also don't do that to yourself.
Yes, exactly. That's extremely important.
And when I say that is like, don't be rude and a bully to yourself. Mm-hmm. Don't go in and go, well, you are fat. You are ugly. You're stupid.
Self-talk is extremely important.
And you can be rude to yourself.
You can.
And you can be a bully to yourself.
And it is extremely important that I was listening to a podcast yesterday and they were talking about the words abracadabra and essentially it means as I speak it, so it is, essentially. Mm-hmm. And I really like how they kind of defined it. And they said when you break a word down, they call it spelling.
Right.
Because you are spelling the word into existence.
Right.
And I like that definition of that. I like that explanation of that because it really breaks it down. It puts it into like, as you speak it, so it is. So the way you put things into the universe is what's coming.
Right.
So I think that you have to be careful, extremely careful about what you say to yourself and to others, especially to children.
Yeah.
Because that is what's going to happen.
And it's what they're learning.
Exactly.
And it's what you're learning too as you're around other people and to yourself. And, putting down others to feel good about yourself.
Yes. It's just not okay.
Is not okay.
No.
But at the same time, like putting down yourself to make someone else feel good.
Right.
It happens where people insult themselves
so that
other people feel better or feel good. A lot of comedians will make mockery of themselves, and that's okay if you're okay with it, as long as you're not then feeding yourself some really horrible things that when the doors are closed and nobody's around, you're now feeling all those horrible things that you were saying
Yeah.
that are a real negative impact on yourself.
Yes.
Like, don't make yourself the butt of the joke and then go behind closed doors and cry about the butt of the joke. You know, if that's the situation, then maybe don't do that in the
Right.
first place.
Right.
And then you have inappropriately boasting about your accomplishments or recognition. Now, I look at that like that there's twofold to that.
Okay.
Inappropriately is the key word here.
Yeah.
Because, and I think some people misinterpret boasting about yourself, bragging about yourself, bragging about your accomplishments, patting yourself on the back thing as a bad thing.
Yeah.
Not all things are bad to
Right.
brag about something that you've done. I think the inappropriate is the time and
Right.
place.
And that's exactly it.
You know, when
Yep.
somebody else is telling a story, it's one of my huge pet peeves.
Yeah.
If somebody else is telling a story about something that they've done or accomplished in their life,
They don't need to be one-upped.
you don't have to one up me.
Yep. Exactly.
And because of the life I've grown up, I'm not saying this to boast, I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back or any of that, but I can pretty much one up anybody on any topic, anytime, anywhere.
Right.
So I have to cognizantly go when I hear somebody telling their story,
Right.
and it could be a story about meeting a celebrity
Right.
or something. I have met so many celebrities, all the way up to princes and queens and
Right.
presidents, and all. I have met so many people, and many of them coming in and out through my dad's shop. My mom is a pilot. My mom flew Elvis, for God's sake. You know, I mean, like, I have in my life, because of who my parents were and the life that I was given, I have had the privilege of meeting and knowing a lot. I skied with Cher. It wasn't on purpose at all. It was really cool. And it's a fun story because I grew up in Tahoe, tons and tons of skiing. And when you're at a ski resort or ski lift, if you're in line, most people are 2, 4, you know, they're in a group together or a couple skiing, and they'll yell out single. So if there's one person getting on a chairlift by themselves, they will call out for single, and the first single comes up and gets on the ski lift with them. I happen to be one of those people, you know, single, and I came up and I got on the ski lift with someone, and full goggles, helmet, you know, not a helmet, but a hat, you know, beanie, and goggles and gloves and the whole thing. Well, she took off the goggles to clean them, and I looked over and I was like, "Oh my God, that's Cher." And this is, you know, in the 80s.
Right.
So she was very popular.
Right.
And we had tons of celebrities in Tahoe.
Right.
And she saw my face that I recognized her. And she's like, "Please, can you just do me a favor and don't say anything? I don't
Right.
want anyone to know I'm here. I'm really trying to just have a solo day with
Right.
myself.
I just want some quiet.
I just want some peace and quiet." And I, you know, and it was known that she was there because there was paparazzi at the lodge.
Right.
And I didn't know this till later. And I said, absolutely. And so we got to talking. I'm like, I'm from here. You know, I grew up here. My dad owns a shop over on Shop Street. He works on a lot of cars. And I said, to be honest with you, a lot of celebrity cars and stuff. And she's like, "Oh, okay." You know, so we got to talking. It was fun. It was good. Well, she asked if I wanted to stay skiing with her. And I said, "Sure, I would love to." And we continued to ski throughout the day. And when we got to a certain point, like, we wanted to have some food and have some drinks. And we found a table like way off on the side. And she did not have any of her entourage with her. They weren't following her around. She wanted peace by herself, hence the goggles and
Right.
the whole hiding. And so I said, well, I'll go over to the lodge and get drinks and cocoa and food and stuff like that, and bring it over so you don't have to go in there, because everyone's going to know who it is when the only person in there getting food and drinks is wearing goggles and
Right.
hat. And there's paparazzi around looking for her. So it's very obvious who it is. So she was super happy that I was able to go and get the stuff for her. And I think I was like 12
Oh, funny.
at the time.
Yeah.
12 or 13. And so I went and got the food and got some drinks and stuff like that. And I brought them back over to the table. And at some point in time, someone started to point out our table. And I'm like, we got to go. And she's like, what? And I said, they're starting to point over here. And so we got up, put our goggles and stuff, because obviously she took stuff off to eat. But we threw our stuff back on, and we went and got on a chairlift, and we skied. And I knew some of the back routes and the back ways, because there were some people that started to follow. And we had a really good day. We had a really good time. And I got to ski with her the whole day. I did not take pictures with her because this was 1982, 1983. We didn't have phones that we carried around with us. It probably would have been really obvious if I was taking pictures with my camera. I didn't carry my camera when I went skiing. So no, there's no picture evidence of it. It's just a story I get to tell.
Right.
But that's one of my favorite ones. But when I tell that story, I don't want to hear, oh, well, I met so-and-so.
Right.
Because that was my story, and it wasn't meant for now. Now, if we're doing the comparison thing,
Right.
it can be funny. My daughter-in-law and I are doing that right now. It's super funny.
Okay.
She's posting something on Facebook, and I don't remember what she said that she started. It was something about so-and-so lives in the town next to us. And I'm like, well, so-and-so lives in the town next to us. And she's like, so I just found out that Dog the Bounty Hunter's son, Landon or something like that. I don't remember. He's a bounty hunter too, but he lives right here in Clements,
Okay.
where we live,
Okay.
like right here.
Okay.
So, and I just found this out from someone else, and they're like, yeah, you might run into him at the general store because he
Oh,
literally
boy.
lives here. Okay. Well, I could have ran into him already 50 times. I wouldn't have known who
Right.
he is, because I'm not like a bounty hunter follower.
Right.
Yeah. I've seen the show a couple times.
Never seen it. Yeah.
But I didn't like, it's more like I'm going through and I see it and I'm like, oh, that looks cool for a minute. And then I move on. I was never like into the bounty hunter thing, but it was just funny because we just kept going back and forth. So we're doing it deliberately.
Right.
So it's funny.
Right.
But when you're in conversation with people, and it's not just about celebrities or any of that stuff, it's about what you've done. And there's an appropriate time if you're doing something comparing with each other.
Right.
And getting, well, I have the experience because of this, this, and this, especially if you're collaborating.
Right.
Okay, well, I have the experience because of this, this, and this. Then it's not the same thing. But if you're just doing it to one up them or boast that make yourself feel better than them, it looks really ugly.
Right.
It makes you look like an asshole, to be honest with you.
Right.
So there's a time sometimes when somebody's telling a story that I have literally thought, oh, I could really, and I have to think about it and realize, are you telling that story to share in the conversation? Or are you sharing that story so that you can be like, oh, look at me too?
Right.
So maybe look at yourself and think, am I contributing to this conversation? Or am I going, but look at me.
Right.
But look at me. Because,
Right.
I know somebody who recently, no matter what you said, She's done it. She's been it, had it, lived it, did
It's
it.
not fun to
One
talk
up-
to
one
somebody
up
when
you.
they're doing that.
And they've never left their town.
Right.
And I sit there going like, you know everything about everything, but you've never left where you are.
Right.
How? How do you know anything about anything? I don't know. You know everything about everything from your little world,
Right.
but you don't know everything about everything. And
Right.
you want to know everything about everything, but you don't. And it's a little bit like the Karen in me wants to come and play
Right.
when that happens.
Right.
So I have to keep her in check too.
Right.
So now we're going to go down to the other day we talked about physical self-care and emotional self-care. So we have only a couple minutes, and I don't know that we're going to go into this one. So tomorrow or Monday, we will go into
Tomorrow we'll have our new setup. It'll be so fun.
Yeah. On Monday, we will go into social self-care.
Yeah.
So next week will be like social self-care and mental self-care and spiritual self-care.
Yeah.
So that'll be Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. For the remainder of this show, I don't know if you've done it or not, but have you possibly? I'm going to play this really short clip.
Awesome. What is it?
Okay, so what Demi Moore is talking about here is how we look at ourselves,
Okay.
and I think it's very profound. That's why I played it.
Okay.
We try to fix our imperfections
Yeah.
mentally and physically. It was a scene in the movie, which I think we should watch. That should be one of our assignments for the weekend, is to watch that movie, because
What movie is it?
it is her movie about The Substance. That's what it's called, The Substance.
Okay.
And in this particular one, she's putting makeup on in a mirror, and she messes up the lips or something, and then she's trying to fix it, and it just becomes worse. But her inner hatred of herself comes out, and you can see it because she just starts making her face a mess.
Okay.
And then she's just rubbing the makeup all over her face, and it's because she hates herself and she's so angry with herself. And you see the ugliness, you see your flaws, but your flaws are so profound when you're hurting.
Yeah.
You know, I have done it. I have done it to a point where I'm embarrassed or ashamed of it, yes, but it happened without my knowledge. Like, when you get to that point, you're not doing it consciously,
Right.
you know. And something had happened, and it was a catalyst. Like, a bunch of things had happened that day, a bunch of things, and they were all mistakes I had made, or tripping, falling, hurting myself. Like, it was a whole bunch of little things. And I didn't literally trip and fall, but I made a lot of mistakes. I was feeling very fat, very ugly. I was having a very poor walking day. And it was compounding on each other to the point that I was in the bathroom, and my husband walked in at the exact time that I slapped myself in the head.
And you didn't laugh at yourself.
No, I didn't. I was angry because
Yeah.
I didn't just slap myself once. I slapped myself 2 or 3 times. And he's like, "What are you doing?"
Why did you slap yourself in the head?
I don't know. Like,
How do you accidentally slap yourself?
I did not accidentally. I did it on purpose.
Why would you do that?
because I was at that point, I had had so many catalysts that I was so angry with myself.
Okay.
And when I did it, I said, fucking stupid, 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 stupid. And I hit
Wow.
myself like 3 or 4 times. And my husband's like, what is
the
going
hell
on?
is
Are you
going
okay?
on?
And I'm like, no, I am not okay. Like,
Yeah. That's
and
not
then I Karened out on him for a second because I
Okay.
was like, okay, obviously I'm not okay. Are you the journalist at a fire that asks people, how do you feel?
Oh, boy, yeah.
Like, do I look like I'm okay? I'm literally hitting myself in the head. What I needed from him at that moment was that grace and maybe just hug me. You know, just say it's okay. You don't have to beat yourself up, you know, that kind of thing. And so I was embarrassed about it, but I was also so hurting right then. And I was angry at my body for failing me. That's what it comes down to. And that's what it amounts to, because all the things that happened that day were catalysts and they were just compounding on one another. And it was all about my body failing me. So I was so angry at my body failing me that I physically lashed out on myself.
Okay.
And and it was later that my husband's like, that's not okay.
No.
Like, we don't do that. We're not going to do that. And he's like, why did you let it get to that point? I said, because I kept feeling like I kept having to push myself. And he's like, well, when you start getting to that point where you're feeling like you're going to get, you know, it's too much and you've already done too much and you've had, especially if you've had a day where there's too many failures and they're compounding on each other, you know, at some point that's going to get you to a level where you have self-hatred. And so when, you know, maybe we have to have like not a code word, but sort of a code of I've had enough. I cannot do any more today. And he's like, your favorite thing is to watch a movie.
Yeah.
You love watching movies. So when you feel like you've had enough, and it's my own way to understand and help you stop, is by saying, I think I need to watch a comedy.
Yeah.
And it'll tell me you're at that point where I need to stop and give you that grace. And he's like, and that means I need to stop for you as well.
Yep.
And he's like, why didn't you just stop? I said, because you were still going.
And I
And
want
it
to keep
made
up.
me feel like I have to keep up with you.
Yep.
And it's unfair to him, but it's also unfair to myself. But I had to stop to recognize what was causing me to feel this way. And it's when your body starts failing you before your brain, it's very easy to get very angry at yourself.
Oh, yeah, for
and get
sure.
very hateful with yourself because like
Absolutely.
I could cut this off and be fine. It's all the rest that's broken. And it's unfair to do to yourself. And you know, I'm having a hard time even finishing this this statement because I want to cry. But we all have to realize that you're not going to be perfect ever. And giving yourself that moment of saying, I've had enough for today. I've had enough for this moment, that I can step back and say, I need something to pull me out of it.
Yeah.
Whether it's going and painting a picture, taking a hot bath, going and sitting in the hot tub, going and watching a movie, whatever it is that you need to pull yourself back. And when you do that, that's when it's a really good time to talk those positive things to yourself, those positive affirmations, because I don't need the positive affirmations when I'm already feeling good.
Right.
I need those positive affirmations when I'm feeling like shit.
Have you picked your positive affirmations that are your daily ones yet?
No, I do need to do that.
I think you should pick ones that are body oriented.
Right.
And even if they're, I'm grateful that my clothes fit,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, and like honestly, I know it's silly, and I know it's probably maybe looks heartless to other people, and it's not meant to be that way. But I try really hard on this cruise I just went on. It was a
Yeah.
very negative experience, but turning it positive
Yeah.
because I got to meet the medical crew.
Yeah.
I'm a former medic, so it was a really, and they loved it because I was able to talk to them and I could understand what they're doing.
Right.
I also understood that they were dealing with a very serious case, so I
Right.
wasn't the Karen going, but what about me?
Right.
But what about me? I
Right.
need you to take care of me. No, somebody was dying and they
Right.
needed to take care of that person.
Right.
And so, I was able to look at that a different perspective,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like I could go, it was horrible. It was the worst cruise ever. I'm never going on that cruise line again. I'm never going to the Bahamas again. I could have all these negative feelings about it, but my feelings aren't that way. My feelings are, I had a great experience.
Right.
Because they treated me
They
so
took care
good.
of you
They took
when you were
such good
sick.
care of me.
Yep.
And the cruise line itself went above and beyond to make sure I was okay.
Right.
And I used that sarcastic line from that movie. But did you die?
Right.
No, I didn't die.
Right.
And someone
think-
else did.
I think, like yesterday, we talked about the putting your hands on your heart and saying that. I think maybe when you wake up in the morning, it's going to be hard, but maybe you should pick.
I
two-
did that with my hand, actually.
Yeah. How did it go?
Because my hand is still really bruised from the IV,
Yeah.
and it took them
Yeah.
5 tries to get an IV.
Right.
And so it hurt and it's still bruised. And I
Right.
did something and whacked it. And I put my hand on it and I said, thank you for giving me fluid.
Yeah.
Because without this one taking,
You wouldn't have.
obviously it would have kept on till they got me an IV. But
Right.
I did. I thanked
Your hand for accepting
for
it?
accepting the IV because without it, I wouldn't have gotten the fluids and the
Yeah.
medicine I needed. So we have to look at those things from that
Yeah.
perspective
Yeah.
of, I could look at it like a horrible
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
get to do all the things I wanted to do, but I got to meet some really great people. And they actually said, we really appreciate you being so understanding and so knowledgeable. So it helped us not have to cater to you as much because we knew you understood what was going on.
Yeah.
You understood why we weren't in the room with you, and that we could help you by letting you help yourself in a way. You
Yeah.
know, I helped with the IV. I was like, okay, look, I said, I know we don't want to do it here, but this is going to be a good vein. And I was helping find the right vein because I've done enough IVs. I know how, and I'm like, these are going to be harder right now because of the lack of fluids.
Yeah.
Your veins act differently when they don't have fluids.
Yeah.
So the last thing, we're like 5 minutes late. So let's finish this last thing. I am going to pull up really quick so we can have her picture up. What is it? That 8666?
6888.
6888. Do you want to talk about that? Have you seen the movie yet, or have you read the story?
I did see the movie.
Do you want to tell a little bit about it? Why we're talking about them at all? It's because we're honoring some women from history that are African American Black History Month, and we're going to talk about different people. I'm just going to make this very, very quick about the if you haven't seen the movie, I think it's a great movie to watch. The history of the women from World War II that were the 6888 is battalion that was made up of all African American women. And so it consisted of all African American women who were assigned to Birmingham, England, Rouen, France, and Paris, France during World War II. Their mission was to clear several years of backlogged mail in the European theater of operation. They worked in cold, dirty, dark, rank, rat-infested aircraft hangars with broken windows. Additionally, 7,500 pieces of mail were addressed to Robert Smith and some just to Junior U.S. Army. So what they did in a faster time than they were even allotted, even though the movie doesn't depict it exactly accurately, but they were given an order to go through this back mail because the army wasn't getting the mail to people. Mm-hmm. And that starts affecting morale.
Yes.
And families back home weren't getting mail because they weren't getting the letters that the men were writing home. So they decided that it would be all black. And
it was the only female African American platoon battalion to go overseas.
Right. And they were at first, when they even started their training to get through basic training and become soldiers in the first place, it was like a very well-known comment that, we're not going to do anything.
Right.
We're just getting trained and we're just going to sit here doing nothing. We're not going to be assigned to anything. We're not going to do anything. Mm-hmm. And then when one of the leaders of that kept saying, we need to get assigned to something, some commander decided, well, I'll prove them wrong and I'll assign them this impossible task and they'll fail. And then I'll win that we shouldn't have black females in the military anyway. And they were really claiming that these black women were too stupid to do anything. Right. And it's really sad to think that they had that kind of mentality to think that just because they were African American that they were too stupid to do anything. Right. It wasn't just because they were women. They were stupid because they were women, but then they were too stupid to do anything because they were black.
Right.
And so it was a double whammy, basically. Right. And watching what they were able to accomplish, and part of it was because they looked at things and they were like, well, look, if you find this symbol, this is where they're located on the map now, so we can follow all these letters that are from here. All the guys are writing they're drawing their emblems, their patches on their letters. And now we can say, okay, they were here, but now they're here, so we can get this mail to here. Yeah. And they successfully were able to deliver, I don't remember how many pieces of mail they were able to deliver, but there are like two, I think there's only two left now, and they're like in their hundreds. Mm-hmm. One's at like 102 and one's 101 years old. Mm-hmm. And I think it is just really, really beautiful that these women were not only able, and they were all women, not a single man among them, and not a single white woman also. They were all African American, and they showed that they had the brains and the intelligence. They cleaned up where they were living. They were able to take care of it, even though it was a dumpster of a fire that they put them in. But they were able to make it livable where they could survive. And they were able to get this mail to these troops. And then they saw morale increasing. Mm-hmm. They saw them responding to getting their loads of mail and getting that one letter from home, or that one mother getting her stack of mail from her kids that are deployed. And a lot of people don't realize there were so many families back in that day that had 6, 7, 8 children. It was very common. So having 4 of your sons in Europe in the war was common. It wasn't a unusual thing to have. Today, that would be probably more unusual to have 3 or 4 brothers all in the same area or in the same battle. They try to separate them more now, and they try not to send the siblings into the same places if they can discern it. Now we have a lot more, a lot better digital, and you think about things from today's perspective versus their perspective. And back in those days, this is the only form you had of anything. It was only paper. So the only mail you got was mailed in an envelope through the postal service. It was the only way to get something. Today, we can literally go onto the computer and send an email really quick. Boom. You can go on live video chat with your spouse in another country that's deployed. Even when they were in a war zone, they had certain hours that they could get on the computer and be able to talk to their spouse's video. And you can email regularly. I mean, obviously when there was something going on that had strategy, they had to shut that stuff down. I've seen it with my son where there's no traffic for a moment. Well, I know that means something's going on. So I think it's really important for us to honor these women and the sacrifice they did, but also the dedication that they did to not quit and not give up, because they very well could have said, this is too much. We can't do it, because they tried to make them quit and they didn't. So if you have not watched the movie 688, go watch the movie. I think it's a great movie. There is some information in it to explain some of the things are not 100% accurate. I don't know that the girl who was missing her letter was a real factor in the truth of the movie or not. I didn't research that to find out if that was actually a thing that really happened or not. But from what I understand, it was a fact that he did die. But that was right in the middle of this heroic time of people stepping up during World War II, and these women saying, we want to step up too. And I think it was a great thing. It's a very good story. So go watch that story if you haven't seen it. Anyway, we are out of here because we are already behind schedule. Well, we were kind of sort of not, because we started late because I don't know, we did 5-10 minutes of nothing and then we started our show. So technically, are we really late or are we on time?
Yes.
Yes and no to both, right?
Yep, exactly.
So anyway, don't forget we are here Monday through Friday, 10 to 11:30 Central Time. And you can follow us on all of our socials at Girl Talks, GURLTAUX. Please follow us, like, and subscribe. And we will see you on Monday. Thank you and have a great day. And
have a great weekend.
The studio will be a little bit different come Monday. All right. See you then. Bye.